Do we have Nijmi in the room?
Yep, I just
You might
joined.
not.
I'm here in
Oh,
person with a watch party. Yep.
I was gonna say I'm not sure if she made it on yet.
Right here, Wendy.
Nijmi, are you up for introducing the Mystica?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Thanks.
Cool. Yeah, so we're just transitioning here. I'm just gathering up the folks here in the room in Southwestern PA at our Southwest PA Healthcare Rights Committee meeting. Um, and this Mishtika is a very rough cut from our first People's Clinic of the Year in Northeast PA. So it just kind of shows you some of the different elements of the People's Clinic. And once again, it's a very rough cut, okay? So just extend your grace. I made this video. I'm not an expert in making videos. But yeah, hopefully it gives a little bit of a flavor for People's Clinic. And you'll see some folks you know and some folks who are probably on this call. So
I'm Rebecca. I use she, her pronouns. I live in Williamsport. I'm part of the NEPA HRC. NEPA is Northeast PA. We're doing a people's clinic, and this is our welfare rights table. Here's where we're going to be talking to folks about any kind of needs that they have when it comes to interacting with the state and their state benefits. So that could be Medicaid, that could be SNAP, that could be getting a lifeline phone or LIHEAP, right? Any of those kind of programs that the state runs, that's what we want to help folks with. I have a compass pulled up on my tablet so that I can actually help folks fill out an application if they need to. We also have information about how to appeal if folks need to file an appeal for their Medicaid. Put People First PA does all of their own lawyering for that. And we have a 93% success rate. We're very proud of that, right? I think the state really counts on folks not knowing how to appeal and not going through the process. You know, the billionaires have just imposed work requirements on food stamps. And those work requirements are actually going to be coming to Medicaid as well next year. So we want to make sure that folks know about all these conditions that exist that would exempt them from those work requirements. And we actually have forms here on hand if folks want to try and get a medical exemption, right? This is the one that we really recommend to folks because almost everybody can get a medical exemption. We really help folks figure out how to get to a doctor if they need help with that and make sure, walk them through every step of the process so they don't have to do it alone.
Hey, everybody. This is Yuling in Ohio NVMA. Thank you so much, Nijmi, for putting that Mystica together and showing us what's happening in Pennsylvania. Here we have, you can see the goals up on the slide. We tonight want to understand what projects of survival are, understand why projects of survival are central to our organizing drives and our model of the poor organizing the poor. We want to learn how different state formations are implementing projects of survival using the model of a people's clinic. And we want to consider how we might begin or increase projects of survival in our states. Next slide, please. And tonight after this, we'll go over community agreements together. We'll talk about who is the Nonviolent Medicaid Army. We'll have grounding and definitions. We'll talk about examples of projects of survival in our states. We'll have a large group discussion and a small breakout group discussion, and then next steps and closing. So community agreements, they indicate our commonly held and agreed to values and help us be aware of behaviors that aren't helpful and that disorganize us rather than building the unity of our class. They set expectations for the kind of organization we are and what we expect from each other as leaders and how we want to be in relationship with one another. Are there 4 volunteers that could read each a column?
I'll read the first one.
Thank you.
The platinum rules. Treat others the way they want to be treated, not just the way you want to be treated. One mic. Only one person should speak at a time. I'm sorry. Assume positive instant and take care of impact. Not everyone comes with a same set of experience and knowledge. So assume that people have good intent. Also be accountable for the impact of your actions and words as well.
I can read a column. Move up, move back. If you feel you are speaking a lot, make space for others to speak. And if you find yourself not talking, try to contribute some comments, ideas, or suggestions. Respect each other's time. Please come back on time from breaks and refrain from speaking in long monologues. No one knows everything. Together we know a lot. This agreement asks that we all practice being humble and look for what we have to learn from each person in the room. It asks us to share what we know as well as our questions so that others may learn from us.
Thanks, Ellen. Go ahead, Amy.
We are all responsible for the success of the space. In contrast to how we experience ruling class education as a product to be consumed, we believe that everyone has the ability to learn and to teach. We expect all members to take an active role in the success of the gathering. Everyone is valuable. Supporting each other and creating the conditions for each person to engage and contribute as fully as possible is an essential step toward creating the organization and building the power we need to change this system. We come from all different backgrounds and abilities, which is a strength.
Pacing and visual descriptions. When facilitating a slide with images, please describe the image, make a strong effort to speak slowly and clearly throughout. Participants, please speak up if you need a facilitator to speak louder or slow down. What one person needs, others also benefit from. All NVMA events are drug and alcohol-free or substance-free spaces. We respect the needs of members in recovery or who otherwise may not be able to be in the presence of drugs or alcohol. Members should not be intoxicated or using substances while participating in MVMA spaces, virtually over Zoom or in person.
Thanks so much, Amy, and thanks so much, Nicole.
All right, I think I'm on this next section about who are we. We always like to reaffirm who we are. So the Nonviolent Medicaid Army of the Poor is a growing, politically independent force of the poor and dispossessed, united across identities, regions, races, and issues, modeled after MLK's Nonviolent Army of the Poor from the Poor People's Campaign of 1968. So this is a call that he put out, Martin Luther King Jr., to build a nonviolent army of the poor. And that's where we get our name from, the Nonviolent Medicaid Army. We can keep going. So those who are on or excluded from Medicaid represent the diversity of the entire working class and are impacted by every single front of struggle: housing, living wages, food, education, debt, migration, incarceration. The fight for Medicaid is common to the North and the South. So we're organizing those on or excluded from Medicaid, and that is the majority of people in this country, unfairly excluded from our human right to health care. Being on or excluded from Medicaid objectively unites a huge section of what we call the leading social force, and we define that as the group of people that has the most to gain and the least to lose from a fundamental transformation of society. And of course, 99% of us have a lot to gain from a fundamental transformation of society, but the leading social force has the most to gain and the least to lose. And that's where we need to start to build that new and unsettling force. Okay.
Okay, I believe I'm up now. Hey everyone. My name is Harrison. I use he him pronouns. I'm in Put People First PA, and I'm going to talk a little about projects of survival and people's clinics as a grounding. So, projects of survival are a multifaceted tactic that achieve many things, and we can see in this slide some of those things. These projects keep us in constant connection with the communities we are organizing, while also developing the leadership and the discipline and the love of our class. They also meet some of our basic needs. So they're a way to do all four of these things. We can go to the next slide. Thank you. So where does this come from, this term projects of survival? It comes from the Black Panther Party, who had many different survival programs. And if we can go to the next slide, we can hear from a leader in the Black Panther Party, Huey Newton, talking about these programs. Is there someone who can read this for us? This is the words of Huey Newton.
We
Josh.
got someone. Oh, we got someone at our watch party.
Sure,
Michael?
we'll have another opportunity for more reading, so we'll get them next. Thank you.
All these programs satisfy the deep needs of the community, but they are not solutions to our problems. That is why we call them survival programs, meaning survival pending revolution. We say that the survival program of the Black Panther Party is like the survival kit of a sailor stranded on a raft. It helps him to sustain himself until he can get completely out of that situation. So the survival programs are no more answers or solutions, but they will help us organize the community around a true analysis and understanding of their situation. When consciousness and understanding is raised to a high level, then the community will seize the time and deliver themselves from the boot of their oppressors. Huey P. Newton.
Thank you so much, Josh. This is a great quote. We're going to understand more about what Huey is saying here. And to do that, we're going to hear from one of our movement leaders, Willie Baptist, if we could go to the next slide and hear some of his words.
The reason why we go into protest, the reason why we have Project Survival is so people can deal with their experience that contradict the way political economy is taught. That somehow it's best for us because a few people may become billionaires, and that's good for us. When we become homeless, we have no food. That's the lesson that's taught. But when you do a protest against it, you begin to challenge that. When you do Project Survival, why in the hell we gotta feed people in an economy that can produce more, they throw more food away every year. Why do we have to have a fucking Project Survival?
That's right.
We got the best healthcare system in terms of the state of the art. Why do we have to have a people's clinic? Yeah. That's political education. It's not just a class to hear a lecture from a doctor. The political economy is being taught in.
Thank you. So Willie is talking a little bit about what these projects do. And they are an opportunity to agitate people about our experiences, our real experiences, which force us to have to do things like projects of survival. And all throughout history, our class has had to fight to survive. and we've had to make a way out of no way. And we have a natural tendency to unite and to help each other. And movements in history have used this natural tendency we have to do more than just survive, but to end the conditions that are killing us. And we can find two examples: the Underground Railroad and the movement to abolish slavery, as well as the housing takeovers in the original National Union of the Homeless. So these projects are things that people were already doing to survive, and they were turned into projects of survival by being used to develop leaders from these struggles. So we could go to the next slide. These projects of survival, they're connected to a theory of change. And we know that we need leaders to really change things. And we've studied our theory of change a lot in the Nonviolent Medicaid Army. Today, I'm just going to have us put our attention on the very bottom right corner of this graphic of our theory of change. And if we could get someone from I think the Southwest PA Watch Party had someone who could read for us. If you could read that section in the bottom right.
Yeah, I think so.
Our theory of change determines who we organize and how we conduct our campaigns.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, right. Maybe you could say that one more time too. Like, it's a really important point. So let's say it again.
Yeah, this is Michael. Our theory of change determines who we organize and how we conduct our campaigns.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Michael. So we do people's clinics. We organize at the point of survival because the people that we are organizing, the leaders that we are developing, who are we? Who are we?
The Medicaid
The
Army.
Medicaid
Yes,
Army.
yes. The Medicaid
The
Army, that
nonviolent
is
Medicaid
who
Army.
we organize. And as Nijmi was saying, right, the Medicaid Army is a large group of people. It is people on and unfairly excluded from Medicaid. It is people struggling to get health care. It is healthcare workers, because healthcare workers don't have control of healthcare. They don't have control of their healthcare. They don't have healthcare. They struggle with healthcare. So this is a really important point about people's clinics, because they help us connect to who we are organizing. If you're on, I'll just say, right, people's clinics, they're important to how we organize. Our model of the poor, organizing the poor. And these projects, they sustain and develop our leaders. And in the May Saturday School, in our Saturday School of Struggle coming up in May, we're going to talk a little bit more. We're going to look more closely at the difference between mutual aid and projects of survival. Right now, I'm just going to go into people's clinics as a specific example of a project of survival. So what is a people's clinic? It's a free health clinic, and they can look slightly different, but they all offer basic health care, and they also have organizing conversations. They're a place where we have organizing conversations. So we're not just offering services, we're talking to people about their experience with healthcare, and we're agitating them about that struggle. Like we heard Willie, why do we have to come together and do things like this just to meet our basic needs? So a quick note on the services that we offer at people's clinics. Doing basic stuff like blood pressure screenings, wound care, right? Assistance with signups, sharing free health clinics, health resources in the area. That's a big deal. Don't let people make you feel like it's not a real health clinic because you're not doing this or that and you don't have this or that. Think back to what Willie was saying about the contradiction of our society, of a society of poverty amidst plenty, where in this country, poverty is the fourth leading cause of death. People die because of poverty and other causes of death, right? Heart attack, stroke. These are related to poverty. So going out there and being a place where people can even just get their blood pressure taken, being a consistent place where people can monitor their blood pressure, that's a big deal because of the society we live in, because of our healthcare system. Like, that's a big deal. If we could go to the next slide, please. So these people's clinics, they're about base building. We're offering these basic services as a way to connect with our base. And so when we choose a location for a people's clinic, we have to be really smart about that. We have to know, where can we meet a large amount of our base? Where can we find large traffic of people in a short amount of time? So when we put this together and go out there, we know we're going to be able to talk to a lot of people in our base. And another sneak peek of the April Saturday School, so it's the one before May, the April Saturday School of Struggle on April 11th is all about, how do we find those places? How do we know in our landscape? How do we know where to find our base? Another big thing with people's clinics, they give our members roles and responsibilities, and that will develop them. So these people's clinics are a way that we can have people lead things. And that's what we need, right? We need leaders. So if we could go to we can go to the next slide. Thank you. This is a little chart of what a kind of flow at a project of survival can look like. Because people, right, we have different stations a lot of the times, like Rebecca was talking about in our Mishtika. And I want to lift up something that Todd, from a leader from United Workers, shared about doing these clinics. And he said, right, whatever your role is, everyone is having organizing conversations. So everything we're doing is to develop leaders. And base build, right? It's base building, what we're doing at these people's clinics. We can't emphasize that enough. These clinics are not just about serving our communities. They're about organizing. And that means we're bringing in the people that we're meeting to do this with us, to take action. And to do that, we can go to the next slide. We're following up with people, and we're looking out for people who stand out to us. We call that panning for gold, right? We're looking for the gold out there because there's a lot of unorganized people who don't know that something like this is happening. I know I didn't before I got organized, and they need this, right? So before we pack up and go home from a people's clinic, we always take time to talk about what were some of the really powerful conversations we had, right? Because that's really important to learn from that. What did we hear? What were people saying? Who stood out to us? Right? And if you had effective organizing conversations with those people, you also know, how are we going to talk to them again? How are we going to follow up with them? Right? If you had a good organizing conversation, that means you got their contact information, their phone, their email, you know where to find them. So we can keep meeting them, because this is about organizing. And that brings us to the last point I want to make. Can't stress this enough, is consistency. That's a big, big element of projects of survival. These are consistent, steady operations, and that really helps. I want to lift up, not sure if John Wessel McCoy, a leader in Indiana, who's going to share very shortly, will say this, but something he shared with some of us about some of the work they've done there that has really stuck with me is, he said everything we've got was from consistency, from being consistent. And that's what these projects really help us do. They help us build that consistent rhythm, that commitment, and that militant discipline around these projects. And we use that to develop leaders. We use that to base build. We use that to protest this system that's killing us, to learn, right, the reality of the system we're living in, and to also meet our needs in doing all of that. So thank you very much for letting me share about projects of survival and people's clinics. And now we're going to, if we could go to the next slide, we're going to hear from examples of people's clinics and other projects of survival in the Nonviolent Medicaid Army.
Thanks, Harrison. That was like so amazing. That was absolutely fantastic. Folks, can we give some love in the signal thread for Harrison? That was a lot of information to give, and that was just so right on. And I didn't know what you were going to say before I planned my comments. I mean, I knew kind of what you were going to say, but I didn't know exactly. But it fits right in line. So I'll do our state next. And actually, I don't. Oh yeah, I guess we can just leave that slide up. I don't have any slides for my section. Hey everybody, I'm Kelly. I use she/her pronouns. I live in New York City. I'm with the New York NVMA and on several teams. Really excited. I have to just take a second and say I'm so excited to see everyone here tonight. This is such important topic. And y'all, we are like building this movement and we need you all here. So just really great to see so many folks here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about people's clinics that we've done in New York City, just to kind of give like a specific example. We saw the video of the amazing video at the beginning. We've seen some pictures from it. That's actually Mark Shee from the New York City NVMA in the red NVMA hoodie, doing a blood pressure check with someone. So I'm just going to describe ours just a little bit. The New York City region of the New York NVMA was really christened, sort of, so to speak, with doing a people's clinic as part of the NVMA National Day of Action in 2024. We were a really new formation. We'd been meeting for a few months, just a few months. We were nervous. We kind of, had read all the things, and we knew we needed to be somewhere that our base would be. So for that first time, we did a people's clinic, and actually the one that's pictured here in the picture with Mark. And for the next few times, we held people's clinics inside a church that housed a soup kitchen where people were actually invited in to sit and to eat, and were given several meals. So it was, it was a decent space. We did have contact with some of our base when people came to sit and to eat. Logistically, we were able to have organizing conversations there, but it wasn't totally ideal. And even though we kind of had a friendly we had a very friendly relationship with this church, they had a ton going on, and we often were kind of felt in the way and like didn't have like a great space. And to be honest, we didn't feel like we encountered as many people as we hoped to. So, but we were really excited about these experiences. They don't have to be like amazing successes to be exciting. We debriefed after every single clinic. We sat together and we talked about it, and we talked through the folks we had met, just like Harrison mentioned in some of the things he was talking about. And we also discussed ways that what we were doing and maybe ways we could improve. And this is so important. This has been such a key part of like what we do. So we began looking for another sort of more centrally positioned location. And we got connected through our members to someone at Tompkins Square Distro. Now, Tompkins Square Park is a public park in the East Village, sort of East Village, Alphabet City in Manhattan. It is also a pretty amazing part of our organizing history, but that's a story for another time. The distro holds a large food distribution every Saturday morning, and it really fit all of our needs. Connected to our base, check. Group is cool with us being there, check. In fact, they were like really kind of into it. They're really kind of into it, and they even like often supply a table for us. So it's a great like relationship. So we have a relationship with we're building a relationship with the community, and we're deepening a relationship with this food distribution as well. We can have organizing conversations there. Check. We could be there consistently. Check. Was it perfect? No. Were we perfect? No. But we worked things out. For instance, we started by all, I think, kind of, nervous, sort of standing near our table, which was at the end of this long food distribution or just kind of right around the corner. And we would stand there, and sometimes we didn't have as many conversations as we would like. And so one of the things we realized is that people were standing in line for this food distribution. They were getting there early, and they were standing in line to kind of walk the tables to get the things that were being given out. And so we divided up, and some of us went over and started talking to the folks in line. If folks got nothing to do but wait there in line, they will often talk. And we talked about healthcare access. We talked about Medicaid. We talked about the new work requirements for SNAP. We talked about offering support and helping people get signed up or doing appeals. And we agitated and talked to folks about how it doesn't have to be this way. And again, we debriefed after every single one. We have gone there now once a month since September, I believe, and we will continue to go there monthly through the beginning of the summer. And in the summer, we're really going to be launch into a season of intense base building. which we're going to try to go every weekend, and we'll still continue to go to Tompkins Square, but we'll also likely visit some other locations around the city. We have learned so much, and our folks have developed into stronger and stronger leaders as a result of that. I am so happy. This is like, if I had one major takeaway, I am so happy that we didn't wait until we were sure that we had figured everything out. We didn't wait until like every single, I was dotted and T was crossed. Did we plan? Yes, of course we did. We absolutely planned. But we learned as we went, and we were flexible, and we tweaked it as it needed to be tweaked. For example, like this is just some silly examples, but we realized that we needed more eye-catching signs at our table and things that maybe help visually explain what we were there for. We had the flyers and the information on the SNAP work requirements translated into multiple languages. So we were kind of somewhat prepared, like for folks that way. We added a storyboard, which we had at the church, but when we got to the park, we were like, I'm not sure. We couldn't really figure out how to do it, but we figured it out. And we all learned and we all like grew together. And this is just, I really can't, you can tell I'm like excited about this. I really can't emphasize enough how important these people's clinics and these projects of survival have been to our organizing. So I am probably over time, but I'm going to pass it to so folks can hear about another project of survival. I will pass it to Father Ty to talk about Maryland.
Thanks, Kelly, and good to be with all of you again tonight. So just picking up on a lot, Kelly and Harrison described so much of what our project of survival is about too with United Workers. You see a little bit of one of our flyers, not super fancy, but our project of survival really centers in each of our regions around emergency food distributions. And we've got 4 of these sites right now, 2 in Baltimore, 1 in Westminster, as you see here on the little flyer, and 1 in Cumberland, Maryland. And those are our 3 major bases of organizing right now. And in each case, it's around food distribution, but each one there's a lot of similarities across the 3, but there's also some differences. Like Westminster here, the one shown in the flyer, is probably right now, in some ways the most developed in the sense that we were able to, in all of our spaces, we're on church parking lots, or in this case, we're actually able to have the food distribution inside at Union Memorial Baptist Church in their basement, which has a ramp and is fully accessible. And it's developed in the sense that it can be indoors. So during the winter time, it was great to be indoors in a warm building and not out in the snow or the ice or the sleet or the cold and the wind. And we're able to have like not just the food distribution, but tables for things we've heard about, benefits, signups, and help and assistance with that and appeals. A story, kind of the story wall. There's places for people to express in art and writing what they're going through. We've borrowed from the Medicaid Mondays to be able to capture some of those stories as well. And just really, we're doing in this project of survival what the Panthers were doing, right? This is a place, and we heard about consistency and how important that is. This is where we remain in consistent contact with our class, where we are having the conversations, where we're learning from one another, where we're bringing political education into the project of survival. The project of survival itself being, in its own way, kind of an act of political education and an act of protest, being able to hold these spaces, again, beyond charity, beyond mutual aid, to have organizing conversations with people as they're waiting in line, but which we do in all of our places, all 3 projects of survival locations. But at Westminster, we're now also, through the work of the leaders there, having these spaces where we can actually have folks sit down at tables, and they do share food. As you see, childcare providing, all that requires members to step up, and really that happened there very quickly, very organically. That group is having about 20 some members showing up each time, and everyone taking on a role, and almost all those roles, as Harrison, as you reminded us, Todd, one of our great root coordinators and really one of the founders of United Workers, says everyone's doing that, those organizing conversations in some way. I would also say that the other two places have really good, we're doing really great work there too, but we don't have as much access to be able to do this kind of work yet. In one case is literally on a parking lot. And we lost access to the building because of that parish's own struggles. That was a parish I formerly pastored that was closed. We had to we had to wage a protest to be able to keep that project of survival on the parking lot. So it's a very tenuous spot now. And we have our own space and site that we control in Baltimore, Hope Garden, which is another project of survival around food. And we're looking to transition the food distribution there. And in Cumberland, again, we're in a church. We don't have a great inside location to do this with, so we're still usually out in the elements. But in all cases, it's using sometimes a survey. And the survey is really not like a Gallup poll thing. You're not trying to pry and investigate. It's about, really, it is about asking people if they have immediate any immediate needs that we can maybe also help with. But it's the basic organizing. It's getting contact information. It's talking about what are people struggling with from their own experiences of their own family, their own community. Why are we going through this? Why doing some political education on the spot and having these conversations with people? Why do we think in the richest nation of all time, in one of the wealthiest states in the wealthiest nation of all time, are we all now lining up to have to get emergency food? Why are our benefits getting cut? Who do we think's responsible for this? What do we do about it collectively together? So those are just initial conversations. You can imagine you can only do so much in a moment when people are there to get food and are standing for a long time or maybe even sitting down. But what we do by getting their contact information, and our follow-ups are usually a follow-up to schedule a home visit. And to be able then to go visit people in their homes or apartments and have a much longer time to, or a much, easier time to have a conversation about not just what they're experiencing, but why we're all collectively experiencing. We can talk about what United Workers, who we are, how we organize, what our theory of change is, what we are about, and what we are in our campaign, our Right to Health campaign. And panning for gold and inviting people who are really showing a real interest in what we're doing and who want to do something, inviting them like to a regional meeting, or inviting them to kind of come to the next food distribution and not just get the food, but also be able to have some see if they wanted to take on one of these roles. So it's always about being in constant contact in our class. A commitment to political education and a commitment to like learning who our class is very specifically in our communities and continue to develop our love for one another as our class. And that love will have to demonstrate itself ultimately coming together to unite to really change this death dealing system as we know we're all about. So I would just say that's a lot of what we're looking at. We developed this like also out of like what a lot of people did. We looked at what the Panthers were doing with their projects of survival, understanding that it aren't just isolated from the other Panther Ps we look at. It's first and foremost rooted in our program, our Right to Health campaign. These things themselves sometimes are powerful protests. Sometimes we even need to do even bigger protests to keep them, as I said, or to develop the project of survival. It involves our press work, our getting our project of survival work and our organizational work out there, of telling our story, because the ruling class will not tell our story. If they try to tell our story, they're going to tell it from their distorted narrative, and they'll use it to not lift us up, but sometimes to even shut us down. And it's a commitment to political education and a commitment to the collective, that these things work because we continue to develop leaders through them, and all of us are sharing that the work of the Project of Survival together. And so, give time now to John to share from what's going on in Indiana.
Thank you, Ty, my comrade from Central Illinois originally. So it's good to follow you. Hey everybody, my name is John Wessel McCoy, and I use he/him pronouns, and I live in Richmond, Indiana, in East Central Indiana, Wayne County. We're right on the Ohio border. And I've been asked tonight to share a little bit about the work that we've been doing here in our base building and development of our all volunteer member-led organizing effort here in Richmond around the court watching work. And so I thought, as a way to kind of tell this story within the time I've got, is just I wanted to show these images. Even though they're not in the courtroom, you go into the court, you can't take your phone in there. I wish I had some pictures from some of what's gone down in the courts or videos. But this picture here in the center is our courthouse, Wayne County Courthouse in Richmond. And actually, I wanted to lift this up. This was our vigil that we had on the longest night in collaboration with the National Union of the Homeless and NVMA and other folks who did coordinated actions that night on the 21st of December. And this is a lot of our folks out in front. And part of the thing that I thought was really amazing about this last year's longest night vigil, it's the second one we've done, is we've been doing enough. We haven't been around all that long. We've been around for about a year and a half. And but folks wanted to reflect actually on the fight and the organizing and the stories and the struggle that really sort of could tell the story of our work this past year. And one of those places has been at the courthouse and in the eviction courts. Every Tuesday morning around 8:30 in the morning, the evictions start. And they go on until they're done. The one magistrate oversees the evictions. The state of Indiana, and I bet the tenant landlord laws aren't, or no picnic anywhere y'all are at, but I would argue it's been shown that the state of Indiana is one of the most landlord friendly states in the union. On the right hand, there's you'll see on that porch, that's Erica Martinez, one of our leaders, and she's testifying up there, and on our longest night. That's her son Billy in the foreground, and on the left, this is our folks coming together because Erica ended up in part, and it was retaliation from a lot of her outspokenness and everything. Her landlords took action against her, and we had to outmaneuver. And ultimately, she did not get evicted. She did go into an eviction hearing, but we were able to sort of outmaneuver the situation. And she was able to find a place in part through the network that we had developed as a community and as a base from other tenants who had like good leads and ways. And so we helped her move her out and avoid the eviction that they tried to take action on with her. And I would just say that Erica is a powerhouse. Thanks, Kelly. I wanted to say that we've been doing this court watching work, which it wasn't just like a group of folks that had a good idea. It really came from the demands of the tenants as this animating and agitating issue of generally the tenant landlord slumlord dynamics in our town is really what people want to make a fight around. But also that this place, the court, is just this place that everybody goes through, and they have to, and it's in the shadows, and it's just the magistrate, and it's the landlords, and sometimes it's their lawyers, and then it's no tenant ever has any real legal aid or support. And one of the things I wanted to lift up about this is, like, none of us are experts on the law. None of us are, we're figuring out, we're actually learning as we we're learning a lot. our pro bono and legal aid stuff in this part of the state is a joke. It's like, kind of worthless. And but for us to every Tuesday have people in that courtroom bearing witness and having our butts in the seats, it, is making, like, it's powerful. And it's also, there's ways that it's starting to kind of, impact the magistrate. Just to constantly have these witnesses for years, this stuff goes on without anybody saying shit, man. And it's always the same damn slumlords in there getting away with what they get away with. And I'm not saying we've, like, whatever, suddenly magically changed things, but we are in the mix there. And I just wanted to kind of end with the fact that, like, Leonardo Vilches from the from the Union de Vecinos in Los Angeles, he always talks about the work of organizing, about how part of what we do is we collectively read the world together, and then we make an assessment off of that read that we have of the world together, and then we figure out how to take action based off of that assessment. And I feel like that's what we're doing here. This is the role the state here locally plays in upholding the interests of those who hold property and abuse in so many ways the poor and dispossessed in our community. And so we're reading together and trying to figure out now how to outmaneuver. And so that's probably my time. But I wanted to just share that this is what we're doing, and we stay consistent on it. We're in there every Tuesday, among other things we do. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, John. Man, I hate hearing about what's happening, but I love hearing how you all are responding and are outmaneuvering and definitely out organizing them. So thank you so much. And thanks, Father Ty. Yeah, Nicole, we have to organize, organize, organize. We have a couple minutes now. And these are just some questions that we have. If for folks to potentially respond to, or just if folks have other things on their mind or they want to share. We got about 5 minutes now to take a few people before we go into our breakout groups. So, Becca, I see your hand.
So first of all, just thank you so much to all of you who had all these great stories to tell us. I really find people's clinics to be really encouraging and something that I definitely strive toward. My question is, like, I really want to do the screening parts of things where we like check blood pressure, maybe blood sugar, that kind of thing. But none of us have any clue how to do that. What resources could you recommend that would help us to be able to do that?
I am happy to get in here. And Harrison, you guys have been doing them for longer than we have. Or, yeah, Harrison mentioned we have some guides. We have some guides. There's a guide for that.
Yeah, we
get in on that.
Connect. Yeah, please. Hey, it's Harrison joining the watch party now. We can connect for more support. We have some guides and resources, and also just to lift up, like, healthcare workers are our base, and our people have a lot of skills. Veterans with training, home health aides, right? Doctors, CNAs. So lots of people we can rely on to help train more people. And I'll share some resources that we do have.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. We're doing people's clinics. We're not really doing like full health clinics. Well, we're not at all. People can even just be trained to take blood pressure, and then there's like paperwork on sort of what are safe, what the numbers mean. But yeah, definitely ways to do it. I saw, I think, Amy's hand before.
Yeah, my question was related to resources, but another question came up in my head because I haven't done anything like this before. how do you have the organizing questions? I mean, conversations. What does that actually look like?
That is a great question. And we have a guide for that. And we have a training for that. Yeah, it's and somebody else can get in here too. But listening is a huge, huge part of it. Yes. And our national, actually our thank you for reminding me. Yes, we have national calls next month on it. It um it takes practice, but it's not hard to do. I mean, basically, you start with sort of like a question like, how's your healthcare situation or something like that. And then you kind of walk people through sort of just a conversation about, um, mostly listening to their story, maybe asking like a follow-up question. I'm going to forget the whole 4 stages, so Nishmi or somebody else get in here. But and then the main thing, that the part that often gets forgotten, is that we don't want to just hear their story and like that's it. We want to tell them what we're doing. We want to offer support, and we want to ask them, like, well, why do you think this is? What do you think's happening that's causing this? Why in the richest nation in the history of the freaking world are people like struggling to get health care? And it's amazing. Like, the people out there, a lot of folks out there like know what's going on. Like they know the system doesn't care about them. They know that that the system is designed this way to keep people oppressed, that we, defund, um, that we defund healthcare, and we fund war over and over and over and over when we're told that there isn't money um, for healthcare, for Medicaid, for SNAP, for basically any of people's basic needs. So yeah, anyway, I could go on and on and on about that, but there is